Hello and welcome to the Gaia update for the Sagittarius new moon, November 29th, 2016. I'm Adrienne Elise and I'm passionate about supporting people through a harmonized awakening process. So I hope you'll find out about my other offerings at adrienneelise.com. Well, in this, I hope you can be a part of the activation. The new moon happens on Tuesday morning at around 5 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. The activation will be Monday night evening at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Monday the 28th. So I hope you can join me for that live activation. We'll really tap into this new moon energy. When we tap into the stars and what's happening in the planet in the moment, it really gives us a reset. Instead of feeling like we're constantly on catch up, always trying to keep up with what's happening. And that's a good way to get into this month, is that there is so much happening. But what's happening is behind the surface in the collective consciousness. I'm sure everyone's feeling that with the trigger of this election season in the U.S., bringing this feeling that is associated with Neptune right on top of the South Node. Now, Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, in Pisces, on top of the South Node, speaking to our past age, speaking to the pain, the wounds, the hidden qualities in our subconscious that are keeping us from finding a way to move into the future. So everything that's in the way, of course, of moving into this future is coming up right now. So patterns are coming up from the past. It's like, well, I really thought I dealt with this. I really thought I was over it. But no, this is a new octave, a new level, and it's coming up to be cleared. So we can move into a new 2017. The readings I've been giving about 2017 in personal individual readings are speaking of a whole new energy in 2017, a path that's uncharted. And indeed, these planets this month are really talking to that, because all of our personal planets have been moving signs. So we're having this big shift of energy, but at the same time, we're having this kind of tidal wave, heavy Armageddon, Titanic energy around this Neptune right on top of the South Node. Now, we were really feeling that with the Sun in Scorpio. Now that it's moved in Sagittarius, which happened on the 21st, we're feeling a little more lightness of our being, but still that collective consciousness undertow feeling, pulling us in this destiny kind of feeling, in this overwhelming feeling that we can't stop. Now, this is really powerful, because what's happening in our collective consciousness is that we're getting to a point where we're connecting more and more on a psychic level on this planet, and we can't move forward in our evolution until we clean up some of the secrets and the lies and the basis of our belief systems that our whole political and economic and religious and structural systems in our field, these are all up for review right now and breaking down. So it's a very uncomfortable time, but this is a good thing for humanity and for the United States right now, because we can't move forward until we find the secrets, find the mysterious parts of this collective experience, and bring them forward. So this is happening in our own life with those patterns coming up from the past. And so just know that that's happening, because you're clearing the slate for a whole new energy in 2017. And really, this is typically a time where you're kind of wrapping up your year and you're kind of, getting ready for family and the holidays and all that. But this is a psychically very busy time. And if you can take advantage of these completions that are coming up, so you can have a nice, clean start to 2017. Just pay very close attention. The astrology is so potent right now. So I hope you can join me for the activation and be a part of it with me in the live energy. If not, catch it on the replay. The live energy is still there in the activation, and you can get that reset for the Sagittarius new moon. So what's happening is this new moon and the Sun and the moon come together on the new moon, and they're squaring up with Neptune right on top of that South Node. So this is just really bringing a lot of energy to that collective feeling of like, ooh, this big tidal wave is blooming out of the depths. The monster is showing itself out of the ocean. Guess what? We need to find the monster in order to harmonize, get rid of the monster, or tame the monster. And so this is what's happening in our life. This energy is going to shift. It's just temporary. So don't get too doomsday about what's going on around you. Don't get too attached to your emotions right now, because things are up and down. So with the moon and the sun triggering that Neptune, in Pisces. We're really getting an energy around the last year or so. This Neptune and Saturn were square. Now Neptune is our dreamer, kind of confusion, delusion, illusion, kind of that kind of energy. And then Saturn's our reality planet. And so we've had this kind of energy going on between what is real and what's not. And the best exercise that's very interesting right now for working through these is taking something that you feel like you believe about and like flipping that belief on its head and just pretending for a minute you believe the complete opposite. And that's the medicine for our time, because things are so strange and we do not have all the pieces of the puzzle. And yet we're trying to operate on this consciousness level as we evolve as humans. And so it's a really uncomfortable time where it's just like, gosh, I really thought that was true, and now I don't know what's true. And this is a lot of the energy coming through. Part of the cool thing about what's happening in this bloom of our subconscious disease is that we're no longer tolerant. And what's happening is our intuitive natures are naturally expanding. And Rudolf Steiner talked about how what we're moving towards in our evolution is this empathic a part of ourselves that's awakening, where we can't be in the same room with someone and not feel how they feel. Now this is happening on the planet, and it's getting really uncomfortable because those of us who have been working on lightening our load and evolving our collective consciousness is still holding on to dark secrets from the past, and we've got to clear these. And so in our life, we're looking at our dark secrets from the past, but we've done so much work with that Saturn in Scorpio over a couple years, and this Mars in retrograde in Scorpio. So we've done all this work. Now we're on mop up. Now we're on cleanup. And so that's where we really need to bring the goddess energy into it. Now Venus is playing a powerful role this second part of November, coming up with a conjunction with Pluto in Capricorn, triggering this Pluto-Uranus square. These are the generational change makers. Pluto wants to break down, and then in Capricorn, rebuild. Now it's really interesting because Pluto is right there in the middle of Capricorn at 15 degrees. And so it's moving to the second part of this experience. Now, Neptune is also having a big shift right now, as we have that right on top of the south node and squaring the new moon, the sun and moon at the new moon. It's also turning direct. So the direct motion of Neptune happens on the 20th of November. And that's going to be a big shift also, where we have the sun moving into Sagittarius. And so this energy of Neptune going direct, it's such a big, slow moving planet, and it has this big energy of the collective consciousness. And so it's lingering here at this place at 9 degrees, which is so interesting because 2016 is a 9 year. If you added up numerology to 0, 1, and 6, you get 9. That means that 2016 is a year of completion. Astrology is backing that up for us. Keep this in mind as you move through this next couple weeks. It's mop up. We've had the fire, we've had the explosion, we had our Scorpio time, we had our election. Now it's mop up, because we're not doing this so we can wallow in the past. We're doing this so we can build something new that feels good. We need to build structures that feel good. Now, this is the humanitarian ideals that are trying to come forward as we move into this age of Aquarius, super highlighted right now because Mars is in Aquarius. Now, that makes Uranus really strong, especially with Venus making that square to Uranus. Now, Uranus is in Aries, and Uranus is the awakener planet. When it's in that square with Pluto, it's really about like sudden change, awakening, revolution, just boom. 1 minute you think this way, and 1 minute you see the truth, new things coming, things leaving, sudden changes. Now that's the energy that is going to take us into this new Aquarian age. But Uranus is interesting right now, being triggered by Venus, because it's right with hanging out with Ceres, this dwarf planet Ceres. And Ceres is the Earth Mama planet. It's about our connection to grains and nourishment and caring for ourselves. So with Venus coming up with Pluto and Capricorn. Capricorn is our sign of structures, our authority, our way we see things. And Venus is saying, hey, we need to look at where we need to build structures to support the goddess in our life. We need to, if we can move forward now, what we need to do is break down our ideas and structures and belief systems around the feminine and the balance of the male and female in our world. Because these humanitarian ideals, this world we want to create that feels good to us, now that we're starting to really feel, we're waking up. And this is so much of the astrology right now. Ceres, the planet that represents Earth, Mama, it's like our satellite Earth in a way. And it is right there hanging out with the Awakener planet. So this is an Earth awakening. We are all on board for this. And what are we doing? It's hard right now with all the South Node, Neptune, Pisces energy to see through this feeling of huge destiny, huge collective changes, and we're going to be stuck in the muck forever. But the whole point of all of that we've been going through is to build structures in our world that feel good to our being as we become more sensitive, as we become more empathic. So this is what's going on in our world. The things that we could put up in our personal life, the things we could put up with and be like, well, I guess it's okay. It's not optimal. It's not the way I would do it, but this is how things are in the world, and this is safe. This is how my bosses do it, or this is how this organization does it, and this is how this relationship pattern has just been here. That shit is not flying anymore. It's like, no, we need to be real and true and get to this place that Venus is saying, hey, bust down those belief systems that are keeping yourself from loving yourself, keeping yourself from having compassion for the other, keeping yourself in war mode. So, Mars is really likes Aquarius because they're both male energies, but it's really about moving into this new world and getting real with who we really are, humanity, and building a world that can support that. So one of the powerful things that's happening right now in this completion of this 2016 astrology is that Saturn has returned to its pre-retrograde position. It went retrograde in March of 2016, so this whole year. And it's interesting because Mars and Saturn almost came together, and then they both went through their retrograde cycles and then just finally came together last month. So what we have here is Saturn returning to its pre-retrograde position at 16 degrees Sagittarius, also moving into the second part of this sign. The Sagittarius energy is about seeing beyond the veil, seeing the big picture, expanding into our knowledge. And so in order to do that, there's been this kind of breakdown, breakthrough, see through to the truth, especially with that Saturn square Neptune energy. We need to see the truth, but we don't know what the truth is. Our lies are so much the truth. Our news feed, there's this whole thing around stopping fake news, but if you look at what they list as fake news, those news is like Mother Jones, that's more real to me than like, a CBS or whatever. So we're being fed, this news feed on Facebook, and it's really important. This is a cool thing about our empathic evolution and revolution that's happening right now, is that the lies that have been so easily fed to us in this world, we're starting to see through it. And it's like, well, let's put some more lies on top of lies, and then we'll make sure that those lies never get cleared. And it's kind of like, it feels overwhelming with that South Node and Pisces energy, Neptune and Pisces energy, to kind of face this collective shift that we're in right now. But it's so incredibly powerful because we're saying, hey, these systems, this way of thinking is not going to work for us anymore, and where our intuition is leading the way. So it's not that we have to go sort through a whole bunch of paperwork in order to find, the documents that are going to be released. That's great. We want to have evidence. But what's happening now is a lot of people are having their empathic revolution and their awakening in their spiritual self, are seeing through these fake news articles, or seeing through the spin that's been tried to put on both sides of the media in the U.S. And the cool thing about this is, like, as we evolve in our empathic abilities, we're just going to see through it all. And now, that's kind of hard to see the truth, especially say in your relationships or your job, or maybe people where you haven't really been fully respected, or you haven't respected other people, and it's like, ugh, these truths that are so true don't need to be proven, they only need to be revealed. And so take heart with this kind of titanic, heavy energy being pulled into the undertow of this collective consciousness. It's just temporary, and the more you can the medicine for this time is to come into the moment when you feel that feeling of hopelessness, despair, like we're never going to get out of this mess. You know, it's kind of like we had a little bit of shifting, 2012, 2013, hey, maybe we're awakening, and nope, sorry, maybe next time you can awaken. And it's not. It's actually happening. But right now is this bloom in the collective consciousness of the lies and the deceit in our own world, the belief systems that are no longer supporting this world we want that feels really good. So now as Saturn comes back to that pre-retrograde position, it's hanging out with Mercury, and Mercury is right there in Sagittarius, and so Mercury is squaring, is bringing to light this triggering, just like Venus is triggering the Pluto-Uranus square, Mercury is triggering this Neptune, Saturn square Neptune, with this reality versus dream versus illusion versus what's really happening here. And so Mercury is a messenger. It wants clarity and it wants to know. And so it's really cool. We're seeing this massive completion with Venus coming up to the Pluto-Uranus square and Mercury, our personal planets, triggering this mutable square that was going on for the last year or so. So Mercury really wants to find this out. Saturn is moving into new territory. All of our personal planets change signs. We've got the sun in a new sign now as of the 21st. And so we're really moving into this new territory, but still having that pull of the heavy collective energy that has not been resolved is still holding on us. So just don't get too distracted in that. Sorry, a lot of people can feel the collective consciousness so much and then they lose track of their own daily life. And so just know that this is a temporary undertow, and that we really are moving into the new. And this is, the new moon is always a time to celebrate that new path. And this last month of 2016 is a potent and powerful time to clean up these loose ends, these structures and belief systems that are holding you back, that are making you feel like your life is kind of we're just getting through, you know. And it's time for humanity to be like, optimal. We want this optimal. We want the truth. We want the technology that can solve all our problems that's been hidden from us. We want to be freed from this domination and control of the past. And the goddess Venus is really triggering that. Now, the other energy that brings forward the goddess is that Jupiter, very powerful planet, big slow mover as well, is in Libra. And so Jupiter spends a couple years in each sign. And Jupiter is where we're expanding and where we're growing and what we want to build into. And so in this case, it's in relationships. This is our personal relationships, our relationship with ourselves, and our relationship to partners or enemies or frenemies. And so we are looking at this desire. We want to expand. Jupiter wants us to expand into harmony, expand into understanding, expand into being like, oh, I thought you were my enemy, and it felt good to have a bad guy for a little bit, but I think I might be the bad guy. If you have bad guys in your life, then there's a bad guy within, and this is the key to this collective consciousness. We're out there. We can't necessarily change the structure after it's already been expressed and built into this monster that it is. What we can change is our belief systems right here in our own being, and we are the change that we want to see. And so we are being willing to evaluate our belief systems of what we always thought was true and find that there is no enemy within. We're all part of oneness, and this deep energy of forgiveness and love and the goddess and a rebirth and awakening of planet Earth. Now, planet Earth is our spaceship. If she's awakening, which is that Uranus Ceres energy coming together and squaring up with Venus, that is the energy that is awakening the planet, and if our planet is awakening, we're also awakening too. So what we're having right here at the end of 2016, moving into 2017, is a massive turnaround in the collective consciousness of being like this weight, this heavy, this Armageddon, this doomsday energy, just like been pulling us back. And now we're going to have a shift where there's going to be a lightening in the collective consciousness, because we can no longer tolerate that heaviness in our being anymore. And so like I said, things are coming up for review yet again, but we are shifting into a whole new energy and a whole new reality that feels lighter and feels better. Once we can be like, I don't want to hold on to the stories that this world has taught me, told me, fed me, or given me programming on TV. I want to know that my life is based on the structures that really are meaningful to me. So that's a lot of what's going on. Sagittarius is seeking for the truth and understanding. And so with all this mutable energy and what's real and what's not real, and, get into that and own, entertain different possibilities of truth, especially when you're getting fed on a news feed, and just really discern, because we are our own guide here. There's an intuitive knowing part of us that is our true power, and that is, a lot of people talk about spiritual awakening, but that's what spiritual awakening is our evolution into our empathic abilities. And that can feel really, really scary when it's a tidal wave of collective garbage from the past that's blooming and pulling us down into that undertow. But take heart, things are shifting, and focus on cleaning up these ends, completing projects, completing relationship issues, completing these things that are coming up. There's just this huge energy to sort through the old and have this Virgo North Node energy being triggered up, opposing Neptune in the South Node, being like, okay, so how do we move through this big tidal wave of confusion in our collective consciousness? We focus on where we're heading. And where we're heading is that place where Virgo feels good, where things have been cleaned up. The truth has been revealed. We're not scared to look at the truth. We're going to be discriminating, and we're going to face the facts, and we're going to clean it up. And so this is this next stage, personally and collectively on our planet, preparing for these new steps in 2017. So Jupiter is that big player because it's there in Libra, and it's pushing us into the healing we need to clean up the dark secrets is through our relationships, and the goddess being like, our relationship to ourself, our relationship to the divine feminine, and the balance between the male and female in our lives. So Venus is squaring Jupiter as well, and so we've got this energy of Jupiter, Venus, Pluto, and Uranus all coming together, and those planets are all about the change. Now Neptune is about the shift in collective consciousness, and that's again pulling us into that confusion place. But we're kind of bringing our head above the water and sorting all of this stuff out, and it has to do with these structures in our life, new structures, breaking down the belief systems, and how do we build a world that can support these humanitarian ideals in our own life, where we feel I'm in disclosure. Now, when I feel something, I'm going to say it right away. I don't care what the other person thinks. I don't care if I'm compromising my relationship and they're not going to love me anymore. I don't care if they're going to ostracize me and call me crazy, because I'm going to speak my truth. I'm going to be in my truth. And the Sagittarius energy coming out of the Scorpio secrets and moving into the Sagittarius energy with this new moon is really about owning our truth and being willing to live it, as we are being willing to create a new world that can just feel better and get these secrets, get this muck out of here, so we're not all being dictated by the pain of our past, by the energies of domination and control. that have kept us feeling so powerless. And that's the thing about the goddess. The goddess is power, female power. And so when we bring this female power and have structures for female power in our life, that's what can give us that compassion and that resolution to stand like a mountain in our life and to be true. You know, how hard was it for the women of the past that were the keepers of the spirit of their tribe to say, no, this is the truth. We're going to hold by this truth. The keepers of the tribe need to come back, and the keepers of the tribe need to stand up just like they are at Standing Rock and being like, this is what's real and true and beautiful, and this is what we're going to focus on. And so without the goddess energy, without structures that can support the goddess, we can't move forward. Without clarity and clearing of these deep subconscious illusions and delusions and lies, we can't move forward. And so these things are happening together, and this disclosure, this being willing to stand up for your truth in the moment, in your life, taking back your own spiritual authority, these are going to be the focus of the activation. So I hope you can join me for that, and just know that we're in this massive shifting place. We've been in a huge shifting place ever since 2011, and this Venus triggering this Pluto-Uranus square is bringing all of it back and getting us down to what really matters here. And that's a really great place to be in your life, and so we're cleansing away, letting that tidal wave of collective consciousness wash away all the stories that have been fed to us that are no longer resonant in the deep truth of who we are, humanity as balanced, people willing to bring in the goddess into our structures again in this world. And so the places where these lessons and this shifting is happening is in personal relationships. So know that that other person, on the one hand, relationships can be a great support right now. On the other hand, it is going to be relationships that are showing us what needs to be cleaned up, what needs to be disclosed, and what we can see within ourselves, love within ourselves, forgive ourselves, and have these shifts so that we can build a world we feel good about instead of feeling embarrassed for who we elect as president to the rest of the world. So this is huge shifting, and thank you so much for joining me. And I hope that I'll see you on that activation on Monday the 28th. Namaste.